Athlete Builder back today. Scott Charland and Lucas. I'm your host, Jim Beebe. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Before we even get into Scott and what we're going to get into today, what I want to know from both these guys is if the NFL was hosting Hard Knocks at your place and they come in and you guys are part of the team and I call you up to do a talent show, song, or whatever. Scott, what's your song you're going to sing, or what's the talent you're going to perform for the
Hmm.
for the group?
It would the song I would sing would probably be a Johnny Cash song because he doesn't really sing as much as he just kind of talks through the song. So I can talk,
Yes,
and the talent would be juggling a soccer ball or jumping rope.
just one ball.
Just well, but with my feet, like
Oh, with your
juggling a
feet.
soccer ball. Yeah, yeah.
Got it. How about you, Luke?
Um, so right now, if it was today, I would probably pick TGIF by Glorilla. I don't know if you've ever heard that song before,
Yeah.
but it is that's the song I would perform, and I would probably do it while line dancing. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, yes.
For those who don't know, I don't know about Scott, but Lucas likes to be out on that floor
I
in
know it.
his boots, doing a little two step, but also that
Yep.
do si do from back in the day, like in that grade school when you're doing that line
Square dancing.
dancing, square
Yeah,
dancing. Yeah, right.
yeah. We
So
had square dancing in my school as part of the curriculum of PE.
we did too. It was a punishment for all us Catholics for since we weren't that athletic. This is a way to remind you that you're really not that athletic, and that's what we're going to work on today. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, big weekend for these guys. So, Scott and Lucas both work for PSM. Scott, we have here today, 20 plus years strength and conditioning coach in the collegiate world. Now he's over more in the private sector and been working his way up, manages a bunch of people, and essentially they look at 1,500 kids a year coming through their program, and he has his hands in all of it, trying to get these kids to be better athletes overall. And this just
Mhm.
this past weekend, they had Northeast Indiana's Sports Performance Clinic up right where you might guess, Northeast Indiana. And so since they're out of Fort Wayne, they hosted it, had 125 plus coaches attend to get better. So true subject matter experts in the area, and their Northeast Indiana empire is growing. It's not quite the Roman Empire of yesteryear, but it's still getting bigger and bigger. And they had
We're
another
trying.
solid weekend. So you guys, how was the weekend? How'd that go? Tell us some of the highlights.
Yeah, it was really good. So it was our fourth year doing the Northeast Indiana Sports Performance Clinic. It's my favorite day of the year because as a young strength and conditioning coach, I grew in the turn of the century, 99, 2000, 2001, that era. I grew up on the hammer strength clinics. So every spring, hammer strength would put out these clinics and they would just have a murderer's row of speakers. Dave Van Hallinger from Florida State, Boyd Epley, Rob Rogers, I mean, Steve Watterson with the Titans, you name it. These guys would go up there, speak. They just say, hey, here's what we do. Take it for what you want, talk to you, be friendly, connect after the clinic. Thing costs like 200 or $100. It was really cheap. I did this when I was a GA at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. It was always up in Nashville at the Tennessee Titans facility. And so those clinics gave me such information and connections and relationships and such a great weekend that it was something that when I had the opportunity, I always wanted to do something like that again. So we finally have the opportunity now with Parkview Sports Medicine. And yeah, so every spring we get five speakers together. We get two speakers from inside PSM and then three nationally known speakers, bring them up to Fort Wayne. We have a lot of staff that then can get CEUs from it. I have 23 strength and conditioning coaches on my staff. Instead of paying them to go do CEUs everywhere else, it's easier just for me to have people come and do it right there. And we get a diverse number of speakers. We partner with five local universities, Parkview Health does, and so we make it free for all their exercise science students. So we probably had 40 to 50 exercise science students there. And then just for me, developing relationships in the area, and the strength coach at Indiana Wesleyan, the strength coaches at Ball State, the strength coaches at Grace and Purdue Fort Wayne, and our guys at Huntington, Indiana Tech, St. Francis, and then all the highs. There was probably Mark Garrett from Crown Point was over there. The Coach Bosket from Carmel was there. We had exercise science professor from Kent State come over there. So great opportunity. It's $50. We make it super cheap. Free lunch, giveaways, prizes, you name it. Try and make it as enjoyable as possible, and just a way for me to give back to the profession with the clinic. And like I said, it's my favorite day of the year.
Wow. Even more than Christmas or your anniversary. I hope your wife isn't going to listen this time.
It's less stress than my anniversary.
So
And it's a full day event with 200 people.
right, right. How about you, Lucas? How was it for you?
That was great. I always like going to it. I'm always learning something from somebody out there, and there's always, always stuff to look at when they got, well, we always got good vendors and stuff like that. I think it's really cool too is the amount of college kids and the future professionals in strength and conditioning. I think the clinic is very genuine and very opening and very, I think it really does help young professionals kind of get a better idea about what strength and conditioning is like. At the end of the clinic this year, there's a round table, and it was, a good conversation about the realities of trying to get into strength and conditioning and what that's going to look like for your daily life, the challenges and the struggles, the benefits. Nobody really, whenever I was going to clinics and stuff like that, nobody told me how hard internships were going to be, or nobody told me about, the how are you going to live and work and be able to afford to do all this stuff. And, we're over here telling, the clinics, the speakers are telling these people these kind of things that I wish somebody would have told me. Because whenever I got my first internship, that wasn't at, the first time I went to Purdue, it was, I knew I was going to go there. There was not a chance in hell I was not going to. But when I got there, I had to, there's things I had to figure out that I just had to figure out when I got there,
Yeah.
And nobody really told me about it. So, and yeah.
That's that whole knowledge component that some people don't really realize it's critical until it's there in your face and you don't have it. You're like, man, I wish I would have known this then, right? And by you guys passing that along, it just helps the whole next generation. And so when we say we're smarter because we stand on the shoulders of giants, that's exactly what that means. So Scott, over the years from Hammer Strength to now, like Sornex runs their own events. There's, we had this one guy on, Chad Coy, awesome coach. He has this process where he does a certification every year, and it's completely different industries.
Mhm.
So, your event and my events, NSC approved for CEUs, but he'll do a nutrition event, but he also might do a course on jujitsu or on yoga or whatever. He's just 30 years, 30 different certifications every year. He just does a different one. So
Wow.
Scott, for you over the years, all the different ones you've been to, is there a speaker or story or a lesson learned where you're like, I remember back in the day, this guy said this, or this story was, you're not going to believe this. So from all those events,
Yeah.
does any of them like really stick out?
Boy, it'd be hard to narrow one down. Um, I'm a Florida State alum. And so in 99, when I started my GA, uh, we were all staying at the same hotel, but the Florida State head strength coach at Florida State somehow didn't have a ride. So he literally just jumped in the car with us to get to the Titans facility. And so for me, this was like, Vince Lombardi getting in the car with you to go to the clinic.
Right?
Boy,
That's awesome.
I was actually told this story this weekend. So the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association, I was in the second class of folks to get certified for that in 2000 or 2001. So I was member 148 of the CSCCA, and still at that time. But there's a practical portion of the test, and then there's a written portion of the test, and we did the written portion of the test. But then for the practical portion of the test, you have to go around a group of 6 master strength and conditioning coaches and talk to them about, basically a question of their choice. Hey, periodization, show me how to squat, explain the power clean to me, blah, 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 move around. Well, at that time, there had only been one class. This was the second year of the conference. So there had only been one class of master strength coaches. So it was Boyd Epley, Mad Dog, Alan Johnson, and so one right after the next, 5 minutes each, I got to sit and talk to like the Mount Rushmore of collegiate strength and conditioning. And for me, for kind of at the time, shy, reserved, do I even belong here kind of guy, to have 5 interrupted minutes with Boyd Epley, Jeff
Wow.
Madden, Alan Johnson, who was at Ohio State for a number of years. And I mean, it's still 25 years later, it's still one of the highlights of my career, talking to those legends in the field, because it's just never would have a chance to be presented with a situation like that again. I mean, other than that, I've spoken at some. They're all good. They're all fun. They're all a good time. I'm trying to think of any speakers, particularly that stand out. I mean, I can't think of. I mean, I've heard them all speak, and they're all really good. But so
That's
valuable
awesome.
going to that stuff in person.
For sure.
One thing about the Northeast clinic that's really cool, especially for if you're an employee at Parkview, is we got a really awesome group of strength coaches, and it's always a great time to see those guys, when we're all in the same area, because it's just good people and a good time. So that's always the plus side of the one we got up here. So
2 years ago, I went to this Ohio State clinic, and they do it right before their spring game. And I know Scott is a big Ohio State fan, so I moved to Columbus. And and at the clinic, it was like a Thursday, Friday clinic. And that year they had a panel, and Kirk Herbstreit runs the panel, so that was sweet. And so they had the last 4 coaches. They had John Cooper, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, and then Ryan Day sitting up there
Wow.
talking about, X's and O's of football, or what they're recruiting. And they're talking about their after action reports after practices and games, which just gave me ideas why we put that in our books and stuff in the planner. And then someone asked Ryan Day, "Hey man, what's your favorite play call?" And I was like, "You know what? 4 verticals. Just send everybody, and we're going to heave it down there. One of those 4 is going to be open because one of those 4 DBs won't be good enough." And
Right.
if it were up to me, we send 4 verts over and over and over again and just bomb it all day long. And that's what we would do. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, at its core, that sounds fun, right? You can't run a
Yeah.
game or a program like that, but that just sounds fun. And when they're real like that, it makes it more fun. And he's like, oh, it's a tangible person, and they give you a real story, but then there's also plenty of lessons. What do you notice in trends and strength and conditioning in the student athletes over the last few decades, right? People talk about, you said periodization, then there's velocity-based training,
Yeah.
or the 5-3-1, or people just, the conjugate. So are you noticing certain trends
Yeah.
and get in athletes and in systems?
Well, I'll say in systems there's 2. So again, I've been around since '99, and so you're talking '99. You had an email address, but if you really wanted to get online, you had to go to the library, and
Mm,
reserve time.
yep.
So that wasn't quite the thing. And in '99, you couldn't go to a weight room and find chains. The bands weren't a thing. So this was like pre conjugate, if you want to call it. Again, at that time, bodybuilding still
Right.
had a big part of it. At the CSCCA conference, you could either do the high intensity track, machine based, Nautilus kind of track, or you could be a free weight track guy. And you would defend your programs based on those things. So think of how different that is. Like machine based training,
Right.
100%. High intensity training, 1 set to failure, Arthur Jones, like that kind of stuff was still around. And so, I mean, it wasn't until I got to Ohio State and Columbus, for obvious reasons, that I even started seeing chains and bands. So we would have Dick Hartzell, the band man, come to Ohio State, and he'd show us these crazy bands. And we're like, this guy is out of his mind. Like, what is this guy doing? And then you'd read the West Side stuff, and you're like, makes some sense. So we started playing around with it, and now that's just strength and conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
But when I started, that wasn't a thing. And then I would say on the speed side, this SAQ side, what Louis Simmons was to strength, Tony Holler's been to speed. To feed the cats. So, we're not going to do 10-1-10s after practice. We're not going to do gassers. We're not going to do suicides. We're not going to do 300-yard shuttles. Hey, we're going to couple sprints, rank, record, publish, boom, get it out, do that a couple times a week. That's our speed and agility programming. And so, again, for me, the change, the philosophy change on the strength side is much more conjugate. And then the change on the SAQ side, much more feed the cats. As far as student athletes go, I say this to everybody. I started as the first strength coach at Birmingham Southern College. It's actually, the college is now closed, but I was the first strength coach there. My wife was hired as the volleyball coach there. They were an NAIA school. She was hired to take them to Division One. So I was the first Division One head strength coach there. It was the fourth smallest Division One school in the country. From there, I went to Ohio State, the biggest. Been at private schools, public schools, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Alabama. Hey, the student athletes are the same. They all go out on Thursday nights. They all won't squat low if you don't make them. Nobody wants to work out in the summer. They all want to hit arms afterwards. They're all going to drink on Thursdays. They're all going to skip breakfast. The student athletes are the same, whether you're at the smallest NAIA school in the country or Texas, because they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Now, the ones at Texas have a little higher percentage of fast twitch fibers. The ones at Texas are a few inches taller, a few pounds heavier. They have some gifts coming out of the womb that the other ones don't. But man, they're college kids. They're all the same. They haven't changed. When I go onto the campuses that we have and I visit them, I'm like, this is no different than it was 15 years ago for me. So yeah, the training styles have changed. College kids are college kids. They might not ever change, and that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. The Now you're not in the role of just training the kids. You're more like training the coaches to train the kids. Like you're more, you keep elevating, right? And so when you're looking to hire new coaches at PSM and Lucas Loring walks in and you're like, whoops, what can we make out of this guy? But what are some staples
Yeah.
you look for, and how did Lucas squeak by?
Yeah, so it depends slightly on the position. So as you mentioned earlier, we have high school strength coaches, which obviously Lucas is one. We have college strength coaches. We have private sector strength coaches. We run two private sector facilities. Think of like D1 Sports, what Velocity Sports used to be. Anybody in the community can come in and train. So we have two of those facilities. So depending on the sector, it's gonna determine exactly what I'm looking for. But one, man, you got to lift. Like I just have a hard time, especially at the high school setting. And Lucas will tell you, like 90% of your day, you could, like Lucas could be the best speed coach in the world. Lucas could be whoever, doesn't matter. Dan Path. How much do you actually do SAQ with the kids?
Are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking.
How much do I do with them?
Speed, agility, quickness, that kind of stuff, plyos.
Not a lot.
What percentage of your time?
Throughout a week, probably 30%.
Okay, 30%. So he might have, but there's this other 70% that's lifting. All right. And at the high school level, especially, man, you got to be at home in a weight room. Yeah. Lucas can have all the acronyms after his name and CSCS and USAW and blah, blah, blah. And I always say this, but what's the first question a boy's going to ask you when they get in the weight room?
How much you bench, bro?
How much you bench? And if you don't have a rock solid answer to that question, man, I'm just going to go see what the Liver King says to do today. All right. That's so right. You got to lift. All right. And then after that, I like to see, as we talked about a little bit earlier, I like to see that there's been a struggle. I like to see that, the first chance that you had a hurdle or a chance to quit this profession, you didn't just bail. All right. So I like to see, hey, you did intern away from home, out of mom and dad's purview, and I figured out a way to make it work. And then I came back here, and maybe I did a little of this and I did a little of that, but I'm still plugging away. All right. Because as Lucas will tell you, Lucas has done as fine a job as any strength coach in the country at the position. I mean, I'm dead serious, at the position that he had. At Northside High School, it wasn't a clean slate. There wasn't like, well, there's not really any culture. There was negative culture there. All right. Lucas had to dig out of a 10-foot hole to get to a clean slate. All right. The culture there was disrespect, laziness, going to do this on my own, got my own guy. The hell are you talking to me about? You ain't me. I mean, he had to spend more than months, years just getting it to zero. There was no clean slate. On his slate, there was, dog crap and pee and vomit and spray paint. He had to wipe the slate clean to, all right, now we can start building. So when I hire somebody in a situation like that, man, I need a bulldog. I need somebody that's not going to give up. And there were many conversations when I'd come to the Northside weight room and Lucas was like hanging on by a thread. But we got through it. All right. Now, the other side of that, too, is how can I make that? I'll tell my guys and girls every day, once they get hired, my job is to make their job as easy as possible, to make their life as easy as possible. So, hey, if you're worried about how to get your computer passcode in, or you're worried about how to get your ID badge, or you need gear, or you need how to sign up for your benefits, or you need to know how to get your retirement, I take care of all that. So you just ask me and I will take care of that stuff for you. You just worry about coaching. Let me handle all the other nonsense that often just frustrates strength coaches. And we're not in corporate America. We don't know how to do all this stuff, and let me handle that so that you can just focus on coaching. Because if I were to just be like, hey, Lucas, man, figure that out, all that other stress is going to build up and then the rope is going to snap. And so I want somebody that lifts. I want somebody that's experienced some ups and downs in their careers, that hasn't quit at the first chance, at the first sign of a roadblock. Lucas's upbringing wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. None of these kids at Northside were either. All right. So he could relate to that kind of what eventually would become this gritty underdog, not the biggest, not the fastest, not the best, but I'm going to work and we're going to do things well. And he was a perfect fit. And so for me, it's just finding that person, finding that those qualities in somebody. Again, on the private sector side, we deal with mostly club sport athletes. Kids mostly lift at their school. So we do, 75% of the stuff we do is speed, agility, quickness. So is finding like a monster lifter as important as it is on the private sector side? Not really. Is it as important on the collegiate side? Nah, because those student athletes are just more mature. They get a little bit bigger picture. They want, they understand it. So, but man, at the high school level, you better find somebody that can flat out lift and get in that weight room and feel super comfortable. So, which he does. I mean, like, there's no doubt about that. The guy's at home in the weight room. So, it's about finding the right fit at the school, finding the right individual, and then for me, taking care of them, paying them well, dealing with all the nonsense that they shouldn't have to deal with. If we need to talk to a sport coach or an AD or a principal, I can be the bad guy in some situations so they don't get mad at Lucas and be like, yeah, I know Scott's a dick, but that's just the Parkview rule. All these kind of things. Let me take the heat, be the bad cop so he can be the good cop, and just make their day as positive as possible. And if we can do that, hopefully they stay. And if they stay and we can retain great staff members, which we've been able to do, well, then it makes my job a lot easier. They get better relationships with the student athletes and the whole thing works. I will say this too. I love local candidates. Lucas is not necessarily local, but it's not like hey, it's going to be, 40 degrees and cloudy in the middle of April in Indiana. Like that can't scare you off. It's not, so having some knowledge of the area. If I have 23 staff members, which I do, at least 80% of them are from Northeast Indiana.
Mm, mm. And a number of things there. One, Lucas, at your next quarterly review, and we're talking bonuses and retention bonuses, just start playing this episode, right? And say, hey,
Yes.
Scott said it
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there. I don't know why we're even having this meeting. We're probably just here to talk about dollars, So when I was talking to
he,
other,
but
go ahead.
legitimately, and you see the stuff he posts, and you guys talk about, he is arguably as irreplaceable as any strength coach in the state of Indiana.
Wow. Write that down, Lucas, in case you're late to work one day. All right. You can't time
Appreciate
cancel.
it.
When he
All right.
wears his iron grip T-shirt in the weight room and should be wearing a PSM shirt, I let that slide.
Yeah, of course, the athlete builder adds 10% to all PRs. So you really want to start improving everyone in the weight room, just outfitting them in our
Yeah.
gear and give them our books to read. So,
Uh-huh.
I remember my wife asking me because I was getting ready to launch this podcast idea and talk to other coaches, and they're like, "Well, who are you going to work with?" I go, "I don't know. This person can do this person can do that." I'm like, "I think I'm going to go with Lucas." And she's like, "What? Does he know anything about podcasts?" I go, "He knows as much as I do."
Yeah.
And so not much. So why Lucas? Well, I can check the box easily that he has the subject matter knowledge to get people better. All right, you pass the test, it's fine, whatever. But the fact that I worked with him at my gym and he was okay, he was good, not great, and I saw the maturity, the change there, and saw him suffer because I know what running the gym is like. And I said, all right, so if I can find someone that suffers and doesn't quit, that's almost 90% because everything else we can just learn.
Yeah.
If
I
we can
love
just
it.
if we just keep learning everything else, we just don't quit. That's it. That's game over. You're gonna get there wherever that is eventually. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna keep lifting and doing physical things, and he's gonna keep lifting and doing physical things. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm good to go. And they're like, that's the decision. I go, yeah, I'm hanging my hat on. He's not a pussy, and he won't quit, and we can learn this as we go, and we'll be fine.
Mhm.
And if you can do that and then get smarter, now you can't just be, all right, well, I'm smart enough. Now you have to get smarter at what we're doing, which we're trying to improve things. I think you're going to be fine in a lot of ways. A lot of ways.
In any profession,
Right. And that's,
podcasting or strength and conditioning, or again, if Lucas wanted to go and do whatever the hell else, those
yeah,
skills, that grit, that determination, that can do, not going to quit, like that
that's
every
it.
employer is looking for that.
Everyone, because it's so rare. And most people quit or they jump in the portal pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a big runway, could you be a doctor or a lawyer? Yeah, probably. I just got to spend enough time and keep working at it. If I don't quit, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I can learn it at some remedial level and just keep elevating. And
Mm-hmm.
the same is true everywhere else. So that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things I asked you about mindset and knowledge and things like that, and I first heard this with Jim Trussell and Maurice Claret. If you want to see a glimpse of your future, show me the 5 people you hang out with the most. And they're not the
Mm-hmm.
ones that coined that phrase, but a lot of people say it. Talk about how you surround yourself with these right people, but sometimes kids, especially, or coaches, or even family members, or teammates, or coworkers, you're around some of the wrong people. And they're not people you necessarily have to cut out of your life, but sometimes you do. How do you coach them up? Hey, this is really not a good situation on this team or in this environment. What can we do to evolve it? And then how do you have that conversation next? Like,
Yeah.
all right, it's going in the wrong direction. It's time to separate and maybe
Well,
change paths here.
before we get there, you want a Maurice Claret story? Because I was at Ohio State when he was there. So
Oh yeah, for
we're
sure.
at Ohio State. Now I'm on the Olympic side, not the football side. Again, Alan Johnson was there on the football side, and a guy named Bernardo. They had some other guys on the football side. So he comes in and sets like the squat record for whatever, the football team.
Mhm.
And, he's just that. I mean, he's 1% of the 1% athlete. And so the first rule of strength and conditioning or medicine: do no harm, don't mess them up. Hey, we just you got a diamond, you just gonna polish it up. And
Yeah.
so the joke was always, hey, coach, what does Maurice Claret's workout look like? Give him a stopwatch and tell him to go jog a mile, and then bring her back in
Right.
and wait for the other guys to get finished working out.
Right.
That's all he did. It's all he needed. Like
Yeah.
we weren't going to try and like do this big workout with this phenomenal athlete. It's just like, here, man, take a stopwatch, 4 laps, and then when you're done, just head around it.
Yeah.
And so now back to go ahead. Did you have something?
Well, setting the squat record is huge, and he only played his freshman year, so it means he did it his freshman year. And it's like, dang, right? So to your point, though, when we have those 6 things that we talk about here, and one of those boxes is totally checked, like you said, his physicality. If that training is totally checked, you just maintain that. Don't really need to push that anymore. He's strong enough. He's fast enough. He's enough endurance. Then you gotta look at the other 5 areas where someone could be weak.
Which
Nutrition,
he was.
making bad bad choices with your teammates, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Raise that standard, and then you got a better athlete. So go ahead.
Right. And think of, we'll get back to your other question, but this is a fun one. And so think of all those other 5 things. Now, this was 2005, so this is 20 years ago. The nutrition, the knowledge of nutrition, there wasn't a nutritionist at Ohio State 20 years ago. Mental performance. Do you think Maurice Claret could have benefited from some mental performance coaching, some life skills coaching, all those stuff that as a profession of performance, we've learned and developed and grown over the last 20 years. Think of how that could have helped an athlete like that, or like a Lawrence Phillips, or back in Nebraska in my day. Think of how those athletes could have benefited from those programs like that. Maurice Claret may not have gone down, may have, but you never know. Had some of those there was strength and conditioning, but had some of those other areas been as developed as they are now, maybe he could have gone down a different road. I'm going to hit you with one more good story about nutrition. And you say, oh, the student athletes at Ohio State and this or that. So every Wednesday night at Ohio State, the football team in their indoor, they would have a team meal every Wednesday night. And it was like the fanciest wedding reception you've ever been to. Steak and shrimp and baked potatoes and a full salad and desserts and this and that. They had to have the strength coach take attendance, because if they didn't make it mandatory, the kids would have just gone to McDonald's and back to their dorm room.
Oh no.
So they had to take attendance at Ohio State to feed the kids steak and shrimp, because without that, they weren't going to come.
Wow.
That's why the kids, there's no difference. Kids are kids.
Sure.
And so those are, I'm giving you all my Ohio State stories, but those are 2 good ones. Just reiterate that question you asked me 5 minutes ago about the staff and making sure it's the right fit, and how do you know when to let somebody go?
Yeah, so like you said, if you're surrounding yourself with the right people, things work pretty well. What happens when you're surrounded by someone who's not, a good fit currently? How do you handle that? And if they never become a good fit, how do you handle that?
Well, we always say, you got to make the expectations of the role clear. Do they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing? If you make the standard, if you make the expectations of the role clear, all right, then we just have to say, hey, I want you to know, I noticed that I don't know that we're meeting the expectations that we have in this contract. So again, all our high school guys, all our college guys we have a contract with the high school or the university. Hey, we're going to provide this, we're going to provide that before school, after school, during the school day. Here's what we're looking for in the summer. So I make that the expectations clear for the coach, clear for the school on what to expect. And then if we're falling short of that, all right, then I have to step in and say, hey, we're not meeting our expectations here. And does that happen? It happens. I will tell the strength coaches, I come around every 2 weeks. There's 11 high school strength coaches. We have 3 college strength coaches. They're all spread out. So I get to Fort Wayne and I'm just driving circles, seeing everybody every 2 weeks. And I tell them, I don't really care what you do. Like, Lucas doesn't need to send me the program that he did in sixth period today. I literally don't care. There's plenty of different ways to skin the cat. So I don't care what he does, but I care passionately about how he does that. So if you're going to do cleans, and that better be pretty close to the NSCA textbook version of cleans. I know it's high school athletes, so my bandwidth's going to be a little wider, but not much. If you're I don't care if you back squat, front squat, goblet squat, belt squat, overhead squat, doesn't matter to me, but you better get down low. All right. I don't care what you do for a warm-up, but the warm-up better be good. And so when I'm going around, I'm just kind of looking at that. Does it pass, the standards of Parkview Health, Parkview Sports Medicine that we've set? And if it doesn't, I'll just, hey, we're adults. I'm 50. Lucas is knocking on 30. Like, if you can't it's not even criticism. It's just an observation. I think those cleans could have been a little bit better today. How are they having trouble with the catch, or what week is this learning it? Oh, it's week 2. I got you. Well, keep it up, man. No problem. Or it's like, gosh, we've been doing them for 3 years. Doing what? We those are the things that I'll talk to some of the strength coaches about, but really not, because again, an ounce of cure is worth a pound of prevention, however it works. But like, if you hire the right person in the beginning, a lot of that stuff goes. And I said it this weekend, your social media is your resume. So when I vet all these coaches, I'm going through their social media. How do they lift? If their lifting is a mess, they're certainly not going to hold the student athletes to better than what they hold themselves. All right. I want to see them coaching other groups. And there's plenty of strength coaches that I've hired, and I said, hey, what you did at that high school, do that here, and we're going to be fine. But then, you got to surround yourself with good people. And what's so challenging for Lucas, really any of our guys, let's be honest, high school sport coaches, they're the vast majority are okay at best. All right. So when he is the only professional coach on his campus, that guy gets his job from coaching, not from like being a banker and then going coaching or selling insurance and then being a coach in the afternoon. There isn't a high standard of coaching. Or like when I was at the university level and I had at Ohio State or even St. Louis or wherever it was, like, oh, there's the conference coach of the year for soccer. There's the national coach of the year for volleyball. Here's a Hall of Fame men's basketball coach. Like, those 5 people lift you up because you go to their practices and you're inspired. Our guys go to sport practices and it's like, holy moly, how do we even get a team out on the field Friday nights? And so that's football, let alone women's tennis, let alone all these other sports. So it's hard in those environments to not get brought down a little bit, because it's like, man, mediocrity is just so accepted here. But that's kind of a rambling answer. But you got to have what we call lion-hearted conversations. And if it's not working, it's just not working. And 9 times out of 10, the employee will realize that it's not working too, and letting them go. Now, not all the time, I'm going to be honest with you, but letting them go is a relief to them because they weren't in the right role.
That's that environment and that situation, very similar, whether it was, banking, because I used to work in the banking world, but also with you guys, you're talking about coaching the coaches. The coaches see that with the athletes. If your program is held at a standard, you're always 5 minutes early or whatever. Let's say it's one of the pieces. And you're the kid that's always 10 minutes late and is always, having a help session. Like, it's clearly this isn't the place where you want to be. This is what we're doing here. You really don't want to be here. So it can be a relief to both parties. And you keep quoting Ohio State. When we had Mickey on, we said this a number of times. The leadership, whether it's a captain on the team or the coach or whoever runs, or maybe the AD, the leaders must be, seen, like you said, seen doing the right thing, lifting with good form, right? Heard, you're given the right instructions, but then you must be felt. They must feel your presence. They must feel your energy. They must feel your caring, so that they see all 3 of those components, because all 3 are then critical to move that coach or that athlete forward. And when it's not there, you have to have a conversation. Hey, you didn't squat low enough. Hey, you didn't hold that class to the standard of squatting low enough. It's the same thing. You noticed a cue, or you know something was wrong, you give them a cue. So it's not like you're being, belittling them. It's just a cue to how to perform better, whether you're coaching the squat or you're squatting
Yeah.
itself.
And that's been the hardest thing about my current role, is because it's really, if I only come around every 2 weeks. Hey, maybe Luke's is just having a bad day. Maybe this is just the wrong class to see. Maybe these kids are coming back from spring break. I mean, so I have to understand that as well, and not overstep my bounds to like just blow up the strength coach because it wasn't the best session in the world, because I'm not there every day. And again, that's not a way for me to keep employees where Coach Scott's always looking over your shoulder and when's he going to drop in and this and that. And so it's a fine line to walk, and it's been challenging for me because there's things I let go, that if I was doing it, I wouldn't do it that way. But man, if that coach, and I get feedback from the athletic directors, I get feedback from the athletic trainers, and if everybody loves that guy or girl, then again, that bandwidth is going to open up a little bit. We're not going to hurt anybody, but we have to realize that the personality, again, you could have the greatest technician in the weight room, but if the strength coach is a jerk and nobody likes him and the coaches don't want to work with them, then nobody's coming in there. I know
Right.
everything I need to know about a strength coach from attendance and participation.
Right.
Lucas's after school sessions are packed. More kids want to get in the class during the day. Summer training went from nobody showing up to hundreds of kids showing up. Man, I
Yep.
mean, even if he's doing a crappy program, I mean, at least they're doing it. If that's better than not doing a great program. And so those metrics, participation, again, after school, before school, during the class day, hey, your class is getting bigger. Hey, what does summer look like year over year in terms of participation? If those metrics are going up,
Yep.
then yeah, things are probably going pretty well. And Coach Scott, if that bent over row isn't the textbook version of a bent over row, you might want to just bite your tongue a little bit.
I can say the same thing with our CrossFit coaches. If Wednesdays are always, Jen's always coaching, and no one ever shows up anymore on Wednesdays. Hello, right? It's probably not the program.
Mm-hmm.
This could be Wednesdays. Uh, I hate to sit here, and it kind of makes me crazy that people keep being nice to Lucas on this episode, but the
You can call me. We can do another one where we just are mean to him.
I
well,
love
how about this? A whole car full of these, high school kids. And I know what it's like to be an idiot high school kid because I did a bunch of dumb shit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of these loony kids, because that's me. I'm not saying to be me. It's a term of
Yep.
endearment. Got in a car, traveled down to Columbus, paid the fee to go to the Arnold to go watch Lucas lift late at night on a day, and then drive all the way back.
That's all you need to
So
know.
right, that's all you need to know right there.
That's all you
Right.
need to know.
All right, enough of Lucas.
yeah, we gotta quit.
How about this? How about this? Because you're my age, Scott, and back in the day, if you were any good at sports, maybe you got a couple extra weeks of the travel all-star team.
Mm-hmm.
You play summer baseball, you do pretty well, CYO, rec league, whatever. You're pretty good. You get 2 or 3 more weeks of travel all-stars, some better competition, some more practices. You get to be a better baseball player. Now that's the standard. These kids are 8 years old and they're traveling to Florida. They're traveling out of state. It's 6 games, 8 game weekends, right? Talk to me about pervasive, repetitive use injuries that you see.
Mm-hmm.
It's often these couple of areas. And what are some things we got to do to make sure that we can not necessarily prevent it, but help prevent it? Because if we can lower that injury rate, the kid's got a better shot.
Yeah. Hey, I had this conversation again with Coach Garrett from Crown Point this weekend, and we've certainly lost the forest for the trees, or maybe it was our intern call. I forget exactly what it was, but development has taken a second, as second fiddle to accomplishment. Hey, we got to win the 13U World Series, or what the hell are we even doing this for? So development has taken a back seat. Now, we at Parkview Sports Medicine, we train 10 youth sports clubs. All right, not just teams, entire clubs. So we have a soccer club with 350 kids, U11 to U18. We have 4 volleyball clubs that we work with. We have 2 baseball clubs that we work with. We have a hockey club that we work with. Now it's our little window of the world. It's our neighborhood. It's our sandbox, and we get to play in it. So because we sponsor those teams as Parkview Health, sports performance training is built in all of their practices throughout the year. And we own the facilities that they practice at. So it's not like, hey, practice on this side of town, then go do strength and conditioning on the other side of town. And if you get hurt, go visit your pediatrician, which is on the third side of town. Literally, we have athletic trainers, physical therapists, strength and conditioning, and where you practice all under the same roof. So it's totally convenient. So
Solid
we,
model.
yeah, it's a great model. And hey, if you have a healthcare company that makes, 9 figures a year, you can do it. If you don't, you're kind of out of luck. So we realize we have gigantic built-in advantages. All right. But it is what it is. We take advantage of it. So yeah, all those teams from when practice starts. So like hockey is August through January. Soccer is March through November. Volleyball, December through May. Baseball, November through March. They either come before or after practice, or some just built it 30 minutes right into their practice at least twice a week. And so we see those. So like my staff is up in Fort Wayne today. They just had their volleyball teams, had their big, whatever tournament over the weekend. They probably played 5, 6, 7, 8 matches on a court thrown down over a concrete, convention hall. Shins, knees, ankles, hips, backs are all wrecked. Missy Macbeth spoke at our clinic this past weekend. She said the average volleyball player takes 70,000 swings in a year, maybe something like that. And so all we can do, what we do, we want to be as anti-sport specific as possible. Whatever they're doing in the sport, we want to do the opposite. All right. So when those volleyball girls come up, what do you do with volleyball? What's your vertical jump training program for volleyball? Bro, we're training them when they're jumping thousands of times a week. We're not gonna like lean into that and jump more. We're not gonna jump at all. We're gonna do isometric holds. We're gonna do body weight relative strength. We're just gonna do legitimate strength training. We're not gonna do a ton of pressing we're gonna do a bunch of pulling because they're going forward so much in their sports. We're not gonna do a ton of ab stuff because every time they swing, every time they jump, that's a flexion. We're gonna have to do extension. Yeah. So we are you sports specific for volleyball? Yes. What does that mean? We do the exact opposite of what you do all weekend, all day long. Because if we just do that same thing, man, you're just leaning in to those overuse injuries.
Yep.
And we do the best we can. The weak things break. We all talk about. So we want to get stronger, particularly in the posterior chain, particularly females, hamstring. Well, really anybody, hamstrings, hips, all those things we want to work on. But we're also not afraid because we have them so often. We're also not afraid to be like, damn, the steak is burnt. Like it ain't coming back. The dog is whipped. Come on upstairs, ladies. We're gonna, foam roll and stretch and do a little something like this. It's not like, oh, well, this is our only workout of the week, and I don't know when you might be coming back. So gosh dang, we got to do our trap bar, 3-rep trap bar today, or it's just never gonna happen. It's part of their practice, and
Beautiful.
So. Yeah, that's how we do it. I don't know. I mean, my kids are in it, and they've had injuries themselves, and I lift them hard, and it's almost, boy, you don't want to say it's unavoidable, but it's almost, when, not if it's going to happen.
When you make it the lifting part of the standard, then it kind of takes care of a lot of problems. And when it's never part of the standard, then problems are way bigger. I had a couple kids come in and they'd already done stuff lifting otherwise. And so we're helping them with all those other 5 things, the other 5 intangibles we talk about other than the training. But I keep asking, hey, what did you guys do this week? What do you guys typically do today? And they like working, the kids like working on the things in the front of the body because it looks pretty, right? And I point that out. I'm like, hey, it's great, man. That front looks pretty, right? The back does most of the work, right? That's your engine, and since that moves the car the most, we're going to spend a lot of time in areas that don't get hit, And so we're not going to keep doing what has been done. We're hitting all the areas that are getting neglected. And then one of the kids came in a couple times because he's got this AAU basketball and he's training with me. And I'm like, you could see it. Like he comes in, he's excited, half hour in, and he's just like, I'm like, so I'm always quantifying, how do you feel energy level wise, or you get ready to hit this wall. And he's like, well, I haven't eaten that much since 11:30. It's now 5 o'clock, and he's looking at another hour and a half practice ahead of him. And I'm like, okay, we're done here, right? We're gonna get calories into you right now because I know what you have coming, and you keep getting more and more run down. I can stop the bleeding a little bit temporarily and fix the situation by getting you some calories so you can survive the next hurdle tonight and try to help you limp through the rest of the week.
Yeah, and because we love our children so much, and Lucas will figure it out when he has kids, you want to give them every opportunity. Hey, if there's an extra chance to play in this team surround, we just mentioned, hey, you're the average of the 5 people you play against. Hey, if you're playing around other great athletes, you're going to get better. You don't want your kid on the fourth string U13 volleyball team because those other kids are picking their nose and pulling their pigtails. Like you want better for your kids than that. And so, if we have to do an extra lesson, if we have to do an extra team, if we can't take this week off. And the clubs, they have fed, they have thrived, they have profited off us as parents just
Sure.
wanting to provide the best things for our kids. That's all we want to do is provide the best for our kids. And if you're offering a week-long volleyball camp between the 2 seasons when they should be off, but instead you're doing these lessons, boy, I really feel like, you told me I got to sign up for these lessons, so we're going to sign up for these lessons. All we try and do, PSM, we just try and make that as convenient as possible, where it's all under one roof, where you're not chasing around Fort Wayne trying to get all those other services. And then back to your posterior chain, I always said this at the collegiate level. Hey, if all things are equal, and my athlete's posterior chain is stronger than your athlete's posterior chain, I think that gives us a competitive advantage. If my calves, hamstrings, glutes, erectors, trapezius are stronger than our opponents, I think that gives us a competitive advantage. And I worked at a lot. I mean, anybody's going to be successful at Ohio State. Like being successful at Ohio State's not a trick. It's the other universities that I was at that we had success across multiple sports, multiple situations, and those core principles that we took with us everywhere we went, it made a difference.
Yeah.
And strong posterior chain was one of them, and that's a Louis Simmons thing.
Oh, for sure. So I think what gets forgotten is the point you already made earlier. And so if you follow along here, you talked about Maurice Claret being so physically there that box was checked. So mindset, knowledge of your sport, working with teammates, training, nutrition, recovery. Well, if someone has so much volleyball all year long, that's the knowledge of their sport. And if that box is so far checked, like Maurice's was on his training, well, let's not check that box for a little while. Let's check the other 5 boxes, was what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That box is checked. It's just like Maurice's. So hold that constant for a little while. Take 2 weeks or a month or 2 or 3 months while the parts that are neglected, maybe that volleyball piece knowledge piece comes down because you're not against that superior opponents right then, but it's come down a little bit. But your gap, your margins on the other 5 things are huge. You close those gaps while that little gap comes down, net, you're way advanced, and that's what gets missed, and that's what's I think we're screaming from the mountaintops here with this podcast and what we're putting out is that this is what we're advocating for. You can make these kids better. Like feed the cats, you can get better by not doing as much. You don't max out every day at Louis Simmons' place because you get better by not doing that as much.
Right.
That's the deal.
And one of the nice things about PSM and for clubs and universities and high schools that partner with PSM, we also have sport. There's a me for sports nutrition. There's a me for mental performance. All those services are, baked into our clubs and our colleges and our high schools. So all of our kids have all of our student athletes under our umbrella. And honestly, and we say this and people kind of laugh, but we figure about 70% of every athlete in Fort Wayne at some point is going to train with PSM Performance. Might be at the high school level, might be at the collegiate level. Uh, we have all the big clubs in town, but about 70% of every kid in Fort Wayne
Hmm.
is going to train with PSM Performance at some point, and they're going to get all of these things.
Right.
And wow, how awesome is that?
The
You don't
sun does
see that
not
anywhere else.
the sun does not
No,
set on the PSM empire in Fort Wayne.
no,
Gotcha. All
Yeah,
yeah,
you
right.
just don't see that stuff anywhere.
Oh man, having a good time. Plus, you keep talking about my school, so that's cool. That's awesome too.
yeah. I'm trying to think of any. Uh, Ohio State's when I was there, I was with men's and women's soccer,
Yep.
men's and women's tennis. I had the cheer. Oh, here's my best Ohio State story. Okay, so I was the head strength coach at Birmingham Southern, small Division One, but we had success. Big South Conference, Winthrop, Coastal Carolina, Asheville, Liberty, all those schools. We won championships, and so all right, I'm going to Ohio State. Like this is the big time now. And so, first day on the job, we at the time Ohio State was still on quarters, so school literally didn't start till like after Labor Day. So our fall sport athletes, football, volleyball, the two soccers, they were really professional athletes because there was no school. They were just there to play sports. And so it's my first day, and Coach Glass, who's a legend, best strength coach I know. Hey, Coach, what am I doing today? What do you want me? What do you want me doing? I got a workout for you. You're gonna go. You're gonna go work out the Brutuses.
Mascots?
Who are the Brutuses? Oh, they're the mascots.
Oh
So Coach
wow.
Scott leaves his 3-month pregnant wife as the head strength coach in Alabama, and his first day on the job, he's training the damn mascot at
Oh
Ohio
man.
State. So that put me in my place right away. So and for the coaches on my staff that know, the mascots did our Gambetta 1 lower body workout, and it was just one of those moments where you have to chuckle because it's like, here I am training the mascot.
I will tell you this, my wife and I, we get real judgy when we like going to college football games, and when the other team scores and they have the mascot or their team out there doing push-ups for 7 points or 10 points,
Yeah.
and those push-ups look like shit, we're like,
Hmm.
nah, nah, nah,
Yeah.
no,
You can tell which
soft,
mascots train and which don't.
soft program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott, now, for those that don't know, Scott totaled elite in
Hmm.
powerlifting, so he's not just a pretty face and a smart guy. Uh, Once he got into his real adult years, not just like high school adult, in college,
Hmm.
got into powerlifting and totaled had an elite total. So, Scott, when you're lifting, what do you like to listen to?
Yeah. So it depends on the day, right? And I got my elite total when I was 35. All right. It
Wow.
wasn't until I was 35 that I got maybe even 36. But so it wasn't like, oh, I was a really strong guy. I mean, I graduated high school at like 165 pounds. There's no way in hell I could have bench pressed 135. I could have never squatted 135 either, but certainly not 225. I mean, I'd have just gotten wrecked. So it was something I worked on over time. And to your point, when I finally got around really strong people, well, I got really strong.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, the music depends on the day. So if we have, if it's, Monday and it's max effort squat, it's going to be, Disturbed. It's going to be Metallica. It's going to be some 80s hair metal, Motley Crue, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, that kind of stuff. It's going to get heavy in there. And it's so fun because, Coach, Jim, when we started in the 80s and 90s lifting, hey, whatever's on the radio, that's what you get,
Yeah, well, you
you
can
know?
tune in
Right.
without any fuzz,
You
right?
were lucky you get to have a radio station. You're lucky to have music. Now the
Yeah.
kids come in the weight room. Oh, if they don't have like their playlist, well, I got to
Shit.
work out to this. Well, too damn
Oh.
bad. So we loved it at St. Louis, and even the kids would make a mixtape or a mix CD, and
Hmm.
we'd pop that in and like track at their mix CD and baseball. Uh, when baseball would come in, and I love training baseball because those guys would lift, and boom, we'd put it on 11, and Corn Twisted Transistor would come on, and it's just like, and we just like, we couldn't even talk to each other. The music was so loud in there because they'd come after practice, they'd be tired. And so, yeah, it's going to get really heavy on that max effort squat day, that max effort. It might be Rocky soundtrack, Hearts on Fire, that kind of stuff. Get you
There you
going.
go. All right.
Tuesdays or Thursday, if it's more of a dynamic effort day, then I'm gonna go like pop punk, Blink 182, Rise Against, that kind of stuff is where I'm going a little bit faster beat, and we're gonna get in and get out of here and get jamming and get that get those VBT numbers up there as high as we can.
That's awesome. What's a bucket list trip for you and your wife, but you haven't done it yet?
Yeah, so as I get older, I feel like I probably have one powerlifting meet left in me. I'm 50. I can now compete as whatever that is, Masters 2. But I do still want to physically challenge myself. And so for me, what that equates to is going a really long walk. Now, that might not be the Appalachian Trail. But there's a trail in Ohio. It's called the Ohio Erie Trail. It literally goes from Cincinnati to Cleveland.
Yep.
You can walk that thing. My wife's from Seattle. There's a trail all around the base of Mount Rainier, 26 miles around that. And so I'm not a camper at all, but just being able to go on a challenging walk would be or up a mountain that I don't need a Sherpa to drag me up, something that I can do. So some kind of physical challenge like that, but yeah, a walk of some sort.
All right. You got one or two favorite sports movies?
I do, but let me ask you this: do you consider Pumping Iron a sports movie?
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, with Arnold. Yeah, it's yeah. It's because I love
It's a
Arnold. I'm so biased to Arnold. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, fine.
So if
okay.
you consider Pumping Iron, I mean, we all remember where we were the first time. It was just like, damn, that's the most awesome thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I want to be involved in this the rest of my life. So It's hard to say it wouldn't be Pumping Iron. Now, what about, do you consider Rocky IV a sports movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Yep.
Tough to beat Rocky IV. What about the Karate Kid? Do you consider Karate Kid a sports movie?
Yep. I like Rocky 1 too, man. I like even Rocky 5, which I think sucked. I like that one because it's Rocky.
So there's no shortage. My son and I love what's the Brad Pitt baseball movie about sabermetrics
about the A's?
Moneyball.
Yeah, Moneyball. We love that one. But I'll tell you this. If it was the last sports movie I was going to watch and I couldn't watch any other one, we're all from Indiana.
Okay, so Hoosiers.
Man, there's nothing like Hoosiers. And the cinematography of Hoosiers, it captures being in Indiana in the winter. The gray, the dark, the cold, the bundled up, and I was at Butler, so going into Hinkle Fieldhouse, measuring the basketball hoops. What high school basketball means to this state, it doesn't make sense to anybody else, but it means that much to these little small farming communities where that's where you gather. And then I just realized this recently, but in thinking of that, there are so many mannerisms that I stole from Gene Hackman as Coach Norman Dale that I used in my coaching. Like I had a little black portfolio that I'd carry around and be like this, and his I know what I'm doing, and all the stuff just man alive. That movie is so fantastic. And again, the feel of it. You are in Indiana in the winter in whatever it was, the 40s or the 50s. And Gene Hackman,
outstanding.
Dennis Hopper. I mean, just a master class.
Yep, absolutely. You have a favorite sport and athlete to watch?
Not necessarily anymore. So when I was growing up in the 80s, baseball was the big sport. So Mike Schmidt, for whatever reason, was my favorite athlete, best baseball player of the decade. Went to college at Florida State. Like I mentioned, I was there when Charlie Ward was there, Heisman Trophy winner.
He's good.
So I loved watching him play football. When I was coming up as a kid in the 90s, World's Strongest Man was on television every day. Bill Kazmaier.
Super neat. Right.
Got to be one of my favorite because he was like you can't compete
insane
anymore because you're just doing too good. And my brother went to Auburn University. He lived in Auburn University. We'd see him around down there. He had his own gym there with all the world records on the walls and pictures on the walls. So I've seen Bill Kazmaier at the grocery store, and so he certainly had apart. He would have to be considered on one of those. And then again, I mean, I loved watching college football. You know, in the decade of the 90s, I would watch as much college football as anybody in the country that wasn't getting paid to do it. But even at the collegiate level, like I said, my wife is a volleyball coach. I love, women's volleyball at the collegiate level is fantastic to watch.
For sure. Yeah.
Tennis, 6 courts of action going. Like tennis is super awesome. There's all those sports. I was a soccer player coming up, so I enjoy watching a soccer game. All those things. That being said, if the only sporting event I really get all that excited for and can get me out of my chair and kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen here? WrestleMania.
Stop it.
Oh,
The Ultimate Warrior.
Well, it's just an escape, right? It's like, It's just fun. It's not serious. There's, God dang it. I was watching something the other day and it's like the over-unders right next to the score. And then the, who's favored by the sports is just about gambling anymore. Like it's just a feed a gambling edition. So I don't really, and load management and blah, blah, blah. Like I do not watch, I probably watched, if I watched 30 minutes of the NCAA tournament, it was just because it was on in the background. Like I'm just not that into it anymore. I watch my kids' sports. My daughter's a gymnast. My son's a baseball player. I watch their sports.
Gotcha.
But if I will go out of my way to watch something, I keep up with that pro wrestling.
Hell yeah. You got a favorite book for us?
I do, and I said, when you sent me the list of questions, I put on there, how to win friends and influence people, because it's truly the only book I've read multiple times, and I think I got so much value out of it. But I was walking around the neighborhood the other day, and I'm like, man, if I was on a desert island, I wouldn't take that book with me. So I'm going to go with Undaunted Courage, which is the story of Lewis and Clark's travels across the western United States, and it's such a great, Stephen Ambrose is the author, and it kind of weaves in between their journals and then his editorials on what they're doing and what they're seeing, and just what a remarkable story that is. And some of the things they say, when the Apollo 11 astronauts or 13 were going around the moon, they were always in contact with Houston. They were always in contact with NASA. And Lewis and Clark went out there. They didn't talk to anybody. They could have just died. Nobody knew. They weren't sure if they were going to find woolly mammoths out there. They were just sure that there was this water trail to the Pacific Ocean, and just the writings from their journals, how they described the mosquitoes, and how their first winter they spent in North Dakota, and just how cold it was. And they finally get to where those are some damn big mountains. We ain't never seen mountains like that. Like they're coming from the east. They've never seen Rocky Mountains before, and it's like August, and damn, there's snow on the top of those mountains. Those things are going to be high, and they get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, and they're going to climb them up, and we're going to look over these mountains, and there's going to be the Pacific Ocean, and all they see for miles and miles is more mountain, and just how crestfallen they were, and just like, damn, this overland water route isn't here. And there's so many more stories like that. They're seeing new animals. They'd never seen grizzly bears before. They're seeing new animals every day, and just how they explain it in their journals, and just the chance encounters they had that kept them alive, and with the Native Americans. Man, it's a wang banger of a story, and so that to me is a book that would be considered one of my favorites. There's a lot, obviously, but that one always sticks with me because those stories are remarkable.
It's like the ultimate story of, you know what, I'm just not going to quit. I'm just going to keep going because I know that I have this belief. And so as long as I just if I don't quit, like Lucas, if I don't quit, I'll be fine someday. I'll get there someday, right? How about this? And this could be fiction or nonfiction.
Oh, I love this question. I've thought about it a lot.
Could be a real person. Could be not, whatever in a book or on TV. Villain and hero.
Yeah. So hero for me, what profession are we in? It's got to be the Incredible Hulk. Okay. So now villain though's got to be Hans Gruber from Die Hard. So
wow.
This guy's got all this stuff planned out. All he really wants to do is stop the Nakatomi Corporation's legacy of greed around the world. This guy's really just an anti-capitalist, that he just wants to just knock down this company a few pegs, but there's this off-duty cop just screwing things up, and without him, he'd have gotten away with it perfectly fine. It was thought out to the T, and just the planning, playing the FBI off themselves, shutting
Yep.
down the electricity. I mean, Hans Gruber, yeah, slick, well financed. I mean, he's got it all going on, and that is, to me, they always say that the villain makes the show,
It does.
and just like your guy Hannibal Lecter, absolutely Hans Gruber for me.
I watched a documentary on Die Hard. Some dork, and
Yeah, no, not
you
at all.
know when he is falling because he's holding on at the end, right, on that ledge,
Mhm.
and he's falling. The director told Hans, "We're going to let you go on three. 1, 2, 3. We're going to let you go. So act like you're falling and you're scared." What the director then told the person that was Bruce Willis and then they were holding on to him, let him go on 2
Yeah, that's awesome.
because they're hoping for 3. And
Yeah.
he's counting on 3. So now he's really shocked and surprised.
And
And so
if I'm not
he's
mistaken, they wanted Clint Eastwood to be John McClane, if I'm not mistaken, because Bruce Willis at the time, relatively unknown. He had done Moonlighting, but he was
moonlighting, right?
he was a relatively unknown actor, and this was like a summer blockbuster movie.
Huge.
But yeah, I mean it's certainly one of my top 5 favorite movies. But Hans Gruber makes it's
Is
hard not to root for that guy.
is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
so is Rocky IV. So is
Okay.
Rocky IV. That all happens during Christmas.
It happened during Christmas, right? You get one lift. What's your favorite lift?
Yeah, it's
You
a tough one. So it's like, who's your favorite kid? I would say a couple things. So
I got a
for
favorite kid.
me, I was
Lucas.
never very good. I didn't start back squatting till I was like 21, 22. So like squatting was a definite weakness of mine. And then I would squat high and my knees hurt and I had knee braces on. So I went from a terrible squatter to a competent squatter. And so it's hard for me not to answer squat with that exercise, because screw you, it's the hardest exercise, it's the most comfortable exercise, is going to be squat. That being said, deadlift athletically, I feel, because of what we talked about, the posterior chain, for myself, for my son, even, I think and it was the lift really that got me the elite total. My other lifts were good, but 639 deadlift at 198, that was what got me the elite total. So that has a special place in my heart.
Sumo deadlift, right?
Oh man,
Oh man,
Lucas.
everything I just said, I take it back.
Yeah, right. Here it comes. Here it comes.
But like, how can it not be bench press, right? How can it not be bench press? I bench press 400 pounds. I loved doing bench. I mean, like, I could bench press every day. So it's hard to say, but again, they all hold a special place in my heart.
So for you're on the stand and I'm the attorney, I'm going to sit there and say you didn't answer the question.
Yeah, back squat.
There it is. Okay. And you got a quote for us.
Yeah, I'm a big quote guy. So when I was at St. Louis University, no one grows up with, a St. Louis University flag on their bedroom wall. It's Mizzou or Illinois or wherever else. And so our student athletes were really just kind of like, I go to St. Louis, but so I wanted to inspire them. I wanted to motivate them. And so we had a quote of the week every week. And I was there for 5.5 years. And so we would put these quotes up and I love that. Like, I thrive off of quotes, seeing what that motivates me a lot. To me, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I think that positive mindset, if you don't think you can do something, I'm going to guarantee you there's no chance you're going to do it. Likewise, if you believe you can, there's a shot. The other one would be, a ship is safe in harbor, but that is not what ships are for. Hey, your body's safe sitting down on the couch at home watching Netflix, but that's not what your body was made for. Nothing awesome ever happened while you were sitting on the couch. Well, you develop that body and all your 6 things that you talk about so you can go out there and do stuff. You can go lift. You can go compete. You can go walk the uphill. You can climb a mountain. You can row a boat. You can do all these things. And you're safe sitting at home at your couch. But that's not what your body's for.
I come back to, man, you're only here once, so gotta go. Gotta go
Hmm.
now. Gotta go now. I always am like in the last minute of a conditioning work, I'm like 1 minute, gotta go. But now I start telling people, man, you gotta go now. Like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Could die.
Absolutely.
Not to be morbid, but you could die tomorrow. Like you really could.
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed.
Scott, where can people find you?
Most days now on Instagram. I think it's just Scott Charland on Instagram. Happy to follow or, I post, I really just retweet the stuff from PSM Performance. So PSM Performance is my staff. I have great staff on my sports performance side, the private sector side that run our Instagram. And I really just repost stuff that they have on there. I was big on Twitter, but Twitter's dead, so I don't go much on there anymore. But yeah, Instagram, Scott Charland or PSM Performance. Have a
Okay.
YouTube channel, have a great YouTube channel, I think, that has all the videos that we do, all kinds of different warm ups, probably 30 different warm ups on there depending on your environment and what you need to do, and then some other lower body circuits and stuff. So that's a decent place too.
Gotcha. Perfect. Man, Scott, thanks for being on the show, man. It was fun.
Anytime, I enjoyed it. This is
It was
different, some
fun.
different questions. So I did. I had a lot of fun. You
Yeah.
guys do a fantastic job. I look forward to your podcast. And I'll be honest, there's times I go right to those questions at the end because boy, that's a window into the soul.
Right. Right. The one we just launched today has Chris Duffin, so that was huge for us.
I saw that.
Um,
Yeah, a good
yeah.
one.
For those that want to email us and get a hold of us, me and Lucas and me, or I can always forward your questions on to Scott, info@athlete-builder.com. And like they had with their Northeast Indiana Sports Performance Clinic, our Athlete Builder Summit is June 7th. We got people coming from all around the Midwest, PhDs, people from different states on their own dimes. The generosity that we're receiving from some of these subject matter experts, building power, building strength, learning about hand-eye coordination, concussion protocol, peptides, hormones, putting it all together with your own personalized plan. So, Athlete Builder Summit, you can go to our website, athlete-builder.com, and register. And Jim, JIM10, gets you 10% off everything. So, at the summit. So, again, Scott, man, loved having you on today. Thank you so much
My
for the
pleasure.
gift. Had a
My
lot of
pleasure.
fun.
Thank you. All right, me too.
All right, we'll see you guys.